Shalom, family, and thank you so much for joining us for this week's weekly news updates. Always a pleasure and a privilege for us to get together, and certainly so we can keep abreast of all the things that are going on in our world. And for those of you that are paying attention, well, at sometimes it moves quite at a pace. Grateful for those of you that, oh, thankfully we're still here. Good. Sometimes we have some technical challenges. I tell you what, thank you for those of you that pray for us and stay with us. Share, like, subscribe. We certainly appreciate it. And we do these on a weekly basis, primarily because we found that many people were completely disconnected from the news. So that was one extreme, and then other people were getting updates like by the hour, and that's just going to make you filled with anxiety and just wasn't a really good pace, right? So either extreme wasn't really good. And so what we found is this once a week, we got together and we're able to review some of the things that are going on. And we kind of came up with the catchphrase: we like to be informed without being overwhelmed. And that's a very good way to look at it. We don't want them to be able to be in control of our anxiety, right? We don't want to put them in charge of our emotions because, boy, they'll drive us crazy. But we definitely got to keep an eye on the things that are happening, especially in light of the scripture. And so that's what we do each week is we take the time to look at things from a broader scriptural perspective. I like to say the 10,000 foot view, right? And we like to look at things and see how things are progressing according to natural things that are happening in the world and how that correlates with the prophecies that were recorded in the scripture and also some of the prophecies of men, because remember that you are dealing with competing kingdoms here, aren't we? So he did say in Matthew chapter 24 that in the last days, nation shall rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. So are we watching that here in the last days? Are we watching kingdom versus kingdom? I believe we are. I believe there's a fight over who's going to be ruling and reigning right in the future. And of course, we know our enemy wants to do that, but we know we've read the back of the book and we know who wins, right? So isn't that the good news? And that's why we have to come out here and share these things and keep people from getting too excited. Because after all, like I said, we read the back of the book, right? And we know who wins. Thank you again for those of you that are joining us from all over the world. It's always a pleasure for us to have you with. And if you haven't, if this is your first time, I don't know how you couldn't have sat with us at least once by now, but if not, and then we do have this beautiful website that we put up called remnantwatch.com. It's a labor of love. And here you're going to find all the headlines that we're covering and some additional resources as well for the days ahead, because after all, we do need to be prepared, folks, and those are free just for your benefit. And at the top, you'll always find this banner that'll bring you to the latest weekly news update. Right now, it'll bring you right to this one. So isn't that convenient? It makes it easy for you to stay connected with what we're doing. And again, folks, I definitely want to encourage you to continue to pray, intercede for one another, and certainly pray for us, because we find ourselves in these battles just as much as you do. And so we're grateful for that. And on that note, let's get into the news. And tonight's top story, we're looking into this because it's starting to look like, and we covered this last week, where they were really concerned about the outbreak of war between Pakistan and India. So there is more and more evidence now emerging, according to this report from CNN, constantly negative news, that Pakistan claims it has credible intelligence India will strike within 36 hours. Okay, so I don't know. I guess it's out in the open now, so maybe they won't do that. Maybe that's the good news, is we won't see it. Better they be wrong. Tensions between India and Pakistan have escalated farther after a top Pakistani official claimed early Wednesday to have credible intelligence that New Delhi will carry out a military action against Islamabad within the next 2 days. The claim came as both the United States and China urged restraint. And so we do see an increasing amount of warfare, an increasing amount of battle going on in the earth, folks, and more people are definitely reacting to the things that are going on in the world. And I think that peace is being taken from the earth. So one of the things that the book of Revelation tells us about is that peace will be taken from the earth. And so when we see stories like this that are indicating to us that any minute now, we might see the outbreak of war right there in the Pakistani India border. Well, that's right in the general vicinity that we're always paying attention to. So, something for us to be aware of, folks, and it's certainly not something for us to take lightly, especially for those of you that are in the area. So, I have a very dear friend of mine, a pastor, VJ Golden, and he's on my Facebook for those of you that are Facebook friends with me. And thank you for that. Those of you that are my friends, certainly grateful for my friends. I've come to appreciate you a lot more than ever before. So just so you know that from deep. So, but anyway, yeah, and he is right there in Punjab, so he would be affected by this. So sometimes we see these stories and we think, oh, that's far away, but we know people there. We have family there. We have friends there. So we need to pray, right? That cooler heads will prevail and there won't be an outbreak of conflict, because we certainly don't need that. And let's hope some of these other efforts are fruitful. Trump says he's willing to meet with the Iranian supreme leader, president, amidst the nuclear talks. And so the U.S. president, Trump, says he is open to meeting with Iran's supreme leader as presidents of two countries begin talks on Iranian nuclear program. And so that's certainly very hopeful, folks. I am very grateful to see any efforts toward peace. After all, we are sons who make peace. That's what we do. We are peace makers. Where there wasn't a peace, we come in and we come on, let's make peace. Let's make peace. Right? Let's bring this down a notch, right? Isn't that what we do? That's what we do. That's what the sons of Elohim do. And so I'm encouraging everyone to continue to pray for that, continue to pray for cooler heads to prevail, right? And for wisdom to come in to these situations, because there's children involved. Serious situations are happening all over the earth. It is of grave concern. And speaking of grave concerns, we've got this report coming in concerning the Houthis and the escalation fears that are happening now. The Houthi rebels have unleashed a terrifying attack that hit them. They weren't Israeli shields and all that. They weren't able to stop it. That thing hit, a missile hit right there, and you see the evidence of it. And so there will be big hits. Netanyahu vows to respond to the Houthi rebels and Iranian terror masters after the airport blast. And so this fight is starting to escalate again. Israel has vowed to hit back hard against the Houthis after they bombed its main airports with a missile on Sunday morning. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announced retaliation against the Houthis and the Iranian terror masters, and it was officially approved by the Security Cabinet. So apparently the Security Cabinet can just, they can approve things. We're going to find out a little more of what they've approved. Israel vowed it will retaliate. Look at that. That's a scary picture, don't you think? And that's exactly what they want to do. They want to put you into a state of fear. Just remember that. They want to keep you in a state of fear. Why? Because you are easier to control when you are afraid. Okay, you are much easier to control. So Benjamin Netanyahu says that they plan to seize all of Gaza. Look at this now. So they're turning up the heat in a different way. Look at this. All of Gaza, and hold it indefinitely, and will be uncensored. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has so far failed to achieve his goal of destroying Hamas or returning all the hostages, despite more than a year of brutal war in Gaza. And of course, the imagery is really hard to look at, folks. Benjamin Netanyahu says Iran's plan to capture all of the Gaza Strip will be intensive, with troops to remain there for an unspecified length of time. So much for this being about hostages. This is not good. I don't like this. Is exactly it's known as mission creep. And it's what happens when things aren't predefined in a very good way. And here we are. The prime minister said IDF forces will not launch raids than abandon territory, but the opposite. So they're launching raids to obtain territory. The plan includes distributing aid through supplies will not be let in yet. And Israeli officials said the newly approved offensive plan would move Gaza's civilian population southward and keep humanitarian aid from falling into Hamas's hands. So this effort is about a more than just an extraction of hostages, and it certainly appears to be a lot more than just a humanitarian thing. Certainly, it appears to be multiple facets. So some folks who had some conspiracy theories just got one of them confirmed by that headline. So again, sometimes we're not sure, right? We're like, well, you don't want to throw shade. Well, right now, that's going to be a little harder to defend. I'm just saying. Now they're just going to go ahead and seize the territory. So again, with all that we have to yet look at in this thing that began in that fateful day in October, I still believe that there are too many questions that we need to have answers to. And this story is far from over. Okay, far from over. And we're seeing various things that are coming out of Israel. Of course, the amount of attacks and the amount of things that have been there have been just devastating, folks. And so there are no winners in war. There's no winners. If you're looking for a winner, there isn't one. Winners don't exist in war. All you have is pain and sorrow. 2 reservists wounded, 1 seriously in West Bank roadside bomb attack. And people beat their chests and act like they've done something, haven't done anything. All you did was demonstrate that you put fire to gunpowder and it blows up. That's all you proved. An experiment that we've proven so many times that I don't believe we need to prove it again. That's like proving that, milk, when you spill it, it goes on the ground. I mean, I don't know what's the point of this. Yes, things can be blown up. And what does that solve? Unless you're in the construction business and you really want to blow it up so you can build something new, which one must wonder, right? And so, of course, they're always looking for something there's always an angle. There's always something going on, much more than we can see, much more than we can understand. And here we got ABC News, always a better choice, folks. There's always a better choice than ABC News. But anyway, I digress. U.S. and Ukraine signed mineral resources agreement. And Bassett says it signals Russia and Trump, that Trump is committed to a peace process. Okay, yeah. That may be. The U.S. and Ukraine have signed the deal to create the United States-Ukraine Reconstruction Investment Fund, the long-awaited deal that gives the U.S. rights to Ukrainian rare earth minerals, both sides announced Wednesday. And so this was used like a political football, as if it somehow was a solution to problems. After all, we finally came to a good conclusion. We signed a mineral deal, which makes you wonder if that wasn't the intention all along. And so, folks, this is getting really strange. I understand there's high-level meetings going on now at the Vatican. I do believe that pope was supposed to be the last pope, and some plans got jackified. Yeah, we'll do that sometimes. He'll throw wrenches in their plans. He sits up in the heavens and laughs at the plans of men. So now they have high-level meetings going on in Rome, inside baseball, that supposedly they're trying to recover devastating parts of their plan that are not going according to plan. Things are not going according to plan. What a shock. Who's shocked? Nobody's shocked? Nobody back there? Are you, ding, 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 any of you shocked? I'm not shocked. So, none of it goes according to their plan. None of this is going according to their plan. I can tell you that right now. Trump says he will not drop tariffs to get China to the negotiating table. So if they thought by doing this tit for tat thing that they were going to get him to the table, they don't realize what he's really trying to do. He suckered them into a fight they can't win. I now get it. I didn't realize how radical this move was. I really didn't. I underestimated it, guys. And I'm a radical thinker. And I didn't even see this one. So I have to take kudos off to these guys. They pulled the fast one. I'll tell you what they did here. Trump says he will not drop tariffs on China and negotiating table. Trump rejects China's demand of lowering 145% tariffs to get them to negotiating table. Nah, he doesn't care. Why? President Trump said he will not drop tariffs on China to get Beijing to come to the negotiating table. The president discussed his stance on tariffs, which he defended in an interview with NBC's Meet the Press recorded Friday from his Mar-a-Lago estate. He said, today they want to talk. Look, China, and I don't like this. I'm not happy about this. China is getting killed right now, Trump told host Kristen Wilker. They're getting absolutely destroyed. Their factories are closing. Their unemployment is going through the roof. And I'm not looking to do that to China now. At the same time, I'm not looking to have China make hundreds of billions of dollars and build more ships and more army tanks and more airplanes. Kaboom. Kaboom. We're playing Army. We're playing Navy. We're playing military. I'm not going to keep supplying you billions of dollars so you can just keep building military. So then we'll be stuck with your policies forever. And why did you get that strength? Well, because there was a traitor president in the 1990s who gave you most favored nation trade status, and it gave you coffers that were full. So now you got aircraft carriers and you got jets and you're threatening Taiwan and all peace in the entire region. All that because we wanted to make you guys a little better at this, thing. And so I think that this is really starting to really balance back out. And what I didn't realize was happening, that I now realize is happening, folks. And I hope you buckle up, Buttercup, because it's about to get dicey if I'm right. Let's hope I don't know if I'm right, but I think that there's a decision that was made that decoupling from China was in the best interest of the United States, regardless of the pain. That the pain of decoupling now and crippling their economies and crippling their economic situation so that there could be a renegotiation. In other words, go to war with China now, before you give them 2 more years of building, 2 more years of economic growth, 2 more years of that, and there won't be any stopping China. Brilliant when you think about it. Had to radically decide where he wanted the pain. This is a leader having to decide where his people were going to experience pain. They could either experience the pain of war, outright war, physical conflict with bombs and everything else against a formidable enemy, or he could take them on now and take their bullets out of their guns. It's an interesting strategy, but I do believe it's what's playing out in front of us. And you can tell by the resolve that he suckered them into this conflict. They thought he would just come to the negotiating table. He's saying, I'm not coming. All right. And so, and don't think that this deal with Ukraine is somehow going to help a whole lot either. Actually, I think he signed that deal knowing full well that it probably isn't going anywhere. I think this is going to be a piece he ends up flipping into something else later on. It is very difficult for them, folks, to get funding for mineral rights in the U.S. and in other parts of the world. Imagine how hard it's going to be to get this done. So there's tremendous problems, and it is not likely to be a successful endeavor in Ukraine. So those who thought, oh, that's it, they're going to go dig stuff, yeah, not likely. Ukraine's turning into a very fickle animal that most countries are starting to walk away from, whether you realize it or not. They're starting to realize that there's no good way out. There's no good exit here. And so, and again, tremendous lives being lost. No one can figure out what the value of any of this nonsense is. And the U.S. has bowed out of the mediator role in the Russia-Ukraine talks. I don't know if most people I don't think realize that, but the United States will no longer play the role of mediator in negotiations with Russia and Ukraine. So because Ukraine, kind of became a little incalcitrant and wasn't willing to meet Russia, I think, more reasonably, the United States lost patience. And it says, we're certainly committed to it and help if we can, but we're not going to fly around the world at the drop of a hat to mediate meetings that's now between the new parties. So they're like, you know what? You guys want to talk? You talk. Okay, call each other up. You guys are neighbors. You live right next door to you. Why am I going to fly all the way over here to help you guys talk to each other? Well, that's kind of peacemaking, I guess. It's like, we're just not going to get involved. Considering that the U.S. has unfortunately been responsible for more conflict than peacemaking, that's probably a good thing, folks, unfortunately. Right? So let's hope that cooler heads again finally prevail in that situation. And we are seeing, again, things are starting to really impact. Not going to go deep into this, but the airline industry is being hit by a variety of things. And folks, what are we seeing here economically? I think one of the things that we're really seeing a tremendous impact in recent days has been the economic front. And I think that's another area of decoupling that is going on. Long waited decoupling is going on. Look at this. Federal Reserve Chairman Powell discusses the U.S. economy. And, well, stocks close out April in the red as recession fears rocket. And there's good reason for concern. April couldn't end soon enough for Wall Street. The closing bell, the S&P 500 and Dow Jones Industrial Average stayed in the red. And so the prophecy concerning a one day's wages becoming a loaf of bread, or for a loaf of bread costing you a day's wages, is in fact inching closer. So this is one of the reasons why we watch this, folks, because many of the prophecies of the last days are economic prophecies. Remember, buy and sell. Remember that? Okay. So that's why we pay attention to the economic things. Yes, he told us there would be war and rumor of war, and he told us that there would be many things that would precede these days. But he most certainly warned us about mammon, the worship thereof, and the root of all evil. And China is exporting, their exports are plunging. And see, President Trump is right. What is happening now to China is a gutting. Their economy is literally being gutted, and all of their fake numbers are going to get exposed. A lot of fake numbers were used to prop up the China experiment, if you will. A lot of things were used to make them look better, and stocks are, when stocks are going up, people don't look too closely at reports. They don't look at the fine print. But when things go bad and things go down, that's when people start reading the fine print. Shipment of goods from China to the U.S. are dropping sharply with the Trump administration's steep tariffs in place, leading the major U.S. retailers to warn about impending supply shortages. So, folks, these are real warnings, because this decoupling is a painful one that's going to force these stores to find alternative suppliers. And those who do not respond quickly enough, those who get stuck in this trade war and who do not understand the implications of what President Trump is trying to do in this decoupling, are going to go out of business. It's that simple. They're just going to go out of business. They're not going to be able to survive. The trade war between China and U.S. has escalated over the past few weeks, with each nation hiking its import duties multiple times for a tit for tat. While Trump has given the other country a 90-day pause in the tariffs as a leader's pledge to negotiate with U.S., China has remained the exception. U.S. import duties on Chinese products now stand as high as 145%. So what's he doing? He's forcing the decoupling. He's basically telling them, "Yeah, we don't want to do business with you anymore. At all. At all." I know. That's radical, right? You're like, wait, what? Yeah, at all. And so, playing the, oh, we like China, doesn't care. And that's why they're going after rare earth minerals, so they can replace China's dominance there. They got 90% of the rare earth minerals business, so they want to get after that. They're signaling, they're saying, we're going to cut you completely out. You guys are negotiating your departure. And we don't want any more plastic made in China. And so this is really an interesting move, because it is wholesale. It's like changing the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. It's a wholesale move. I underestimated how radical this move was, and now we're seeing the evidence of it. And it's starting to show up in real time, folks. With the Port of Los Angeles, it says shipping volume will plummet 35% next week as China tariffs start to bite. It's a precipitous drop in volume, with a number of major American retailers stopping all shipments from China based on the tariffs. All. You shut their country down. They were popping big smoke, talking big smack while we're buying their stuff. You know what? Trump's like, look, pain now or pain later. I'll take the pain now. Somebody let these companies know we ain't playing. Shipments from China made up 45% of the businesses for the port, though some transport companies will be looking to pick up goods at other ports in Southeast Asia to try to fill their ships, Soroka said. So what's going to happen, folks? I'll tell you exactly what's going to happen. The same thing that always happens in a capitalist situation. Others are going to step in who aren't being controlled by the Chinese. That's exactly what's going to happen. Other suppliers are going to step in, like the Singapore, or perhaps the Filipinos, or perhaps the North and South Koreans. Other Asian countries are going to fill those gaps. Those old holes are going to be there because they don't have those tariffs. So companies are going to start leaving China to go work in other places. They're going to have no choice but to fund. It's going to deconstruct the economy of China. It's an attack like you wouldn't believe right now in terms of a real impact, because that's affecting actual people's lives where they live. So don't think for a second that this is a small matter. And I, again, underestimated. I really did. I wasn't paying as much attention to his moves. I didn't think. At first, I did the same thing everyone else did. I honestly did. I gave it a cursory review and thought, he's just going to negotiate. Well, he did with everyone else, but then with China, he didn't. Did you guys, he doubled down and went like, oh, I thought you were just trying to bring him to the table. You're not trying to bring him to the table? What are you doing here? Oh. They didn't like that the Chinese went over to the Middle East and decided to be peace brokers. They didn't like that the Chinese decided to pop smoke. They didn't like that the Chinese were trying to express their views in international affairs in Africa and other places. So this is a hegemony smacking another hegemony. This is going to get interesting, folks. Speaking of interesting, did you guys see what happened in Canada? Carney, according to this, they win the Canadian election, and so this is moving Canada to the left. So this is going to mean, I don't really need to get into this very much, but I just brought it up because right here in North America, the Trump administration is going to have new fun with the Canadian administration, which of course they're going to go back and forth now. So this is going to provide much interesting banter and distraction for probably a whole lot of pain and suffering that people are going to be suffering, like these young workers who are ready to quit because they're burning out, they're getting pay concerns, and they're just done. And again, 74% of employees surveyed admit currently living paycheck to paycheck. And so this is not a good subsistence. 73% of Gen Z and 70% of millennials are looking to change jobs, compared to only 33% of baby boomers, highlighting a significant generational divide in workplace satisfaction. Yes, we do have a group of people who are harder to please. They're a bit entitled. Those baby boomers work so darn hard that they made a bunch of entitled millennials and Gen Zs who are like, do you remember that one girl on, what was it? No, it wasn't Dr. Phil. It was something else. Oh yeah, maybe it was Dr. Phil, where she's like, I don't want to get a job. And she was literally crying on the set and everything else. And we're just, everybody from my generation, and even the next generation are looking at her like, what? Are you, what? And just literally having a meltdown in front of national TV because her parents, and she must have been 20 years old, were telling her, look, you got to get a job. You got to get on your own. What are you doing? You think that we're just going to keep red carpeting? This is when parents have done too good a job of taking care of their children that they don't know what the real world's like. And how many know that they're about to find out? And so you're not doing them any favors by keeping them from understanding how difficult life can be. And retail locations are closing all over the country. The country's oldest retailer in North America. That is very significant. It's almost symbolic, don't you think, guys? I mean, tell me what you think in the comments, but I think that's a bit symbolic that one of North America's longest running retailers is closing its doors for good. This retailer is actually the oldest business in North America and was founded way back in 1670. What? Yeah, that's a long time, folks. That's 350 years for those that are counting. 355. Okay, who's counting? All right. Hudson Bay Company, headquarters in New York and Toronto, is closing all of its stores. The company will close 6 namesake stores as well as Saks Fifth Avenue store that the company has initially excluded from liquidation plans, according to an April 24th announcement. And so they're done. And this apocalypse, this retail apocalypse, well, it's continuing, folks. And there's a reason for it. They were dependent too much on China. Shoppers to see empty shelves as retailers expect. Expert reveals exact date of expected shortages. So they're expecting by the end of the month, it's going to be really hard to get stuff. The current economic landscape is sending shockwaves in the retail space, with one of the expected impacts being a lot of empty shelves. So this is a great opportunity for small businesses, for small companies, for local companies, for companies that are in the United States to start stocking these shelves with their products. So don't look at this as a negative. Look at it as a great big positive. As the trade war and traffic troubles cause disruptions in the supply chain, a retail expert has shared the exact date that consumers can expect to see product shortages, and they're going to continue to scare the daylights out of people because, of course, most of them are just going to sit there and watch it happen. Let me encourage all of you in the remnant to start networking with those that are producers, creators, and suppliers right here in the United States, in your regions, in your areas. And now you know something that is dead certain, that these stores are going to be in need of new supply. They're going to be needing new everything, shampoo, you name it, all across the gamut. And you got your opportunity, because you might just help that store stay in business and pick up amazing contracts along the way. And so don't run away in fear, folks. Go looking for local, go looking for regional, go looking for smaller businesses that need to expand. If you're one of those small businesses, this is a really great time to go talk to, your bank and get an expansion loan and start thinking about doing some new things, or better yet, partner together with your brethren. That's even better. And the smarter, the wiser you are to think about those things, your brethren are still going to need those supplies. And just because they can't get them from China doesn't mean they shouldn't get them at all. All right. So come on, folks, get on board, get in there. There's opportunity there. Don't look at that as a negative. Look at it as an opportunity just for some who are wise enough to take advantage of it. Certainly seems that way to me. And I think there's a lot of opportunity as we start to see the holes in their supply chain and the way that their quality controls. How many know that every week they keep reporting things that are not okay? And that should open opportunity for you who are quality conscious, who are intelligent, who are wise, who are good folks. 40,000 cartons of ice cream recalled in 4 states, including Ohio. And we do have friends, even some watching this broadcast, who are in Ohio. So be aware. Thousands of ice cream cartons were recalled in 4 states, including the state of Ohio. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration issued an alert regarding a voluntary recall of 40,128 cartons of Sunday Shop cookies and cream Moki ice cream. The recall was initiated on April 3rd and formally classified on Monday. And so again, the more we see of these things, guys, the more we start going, I think we need to make our own ice cream. Okay. I'm just saying, instead of us thinking, oh, they'll fix it, we got to think, maybe the whole system's broken and we should just keep bringing it down to a regional level. After all, I would rather eat and consume and have things from the region than from, across the country somewhere. Right. So I think we went a little too far with some of our shipping things and what have you. And we also went too far with some of the things that because we are shipping things so far away, and because we don't stay within local geographic areas for our predominant supplies, we expose ourselves to chemical contaminants that, well, frankly, are deadly. And many of you are aware of this, but some of you are just now figuring it out. Eating more ultra-processed food ups the risk of premature death, the study finds. That's right. And I know a lot of you already knew this. As you add more ultra-processed food to your diet, your risk of premature death from any cause rises, according to new meta-analysis of research, involving more than 240,000 people. We looked at the risk of persons dying from eating more ultra-processed food between the ages of 30 and 69, a time when it would be premature to die, said the co-author of Carlos Agustus Momenta. And basically, we found that each of 10% increase in total calories from ultra-processed food, the risk of dying prematurely rose by nearly 3%. So again, you really, really take your life in your own hands in more ways than one when you eat their food. Now, why? Why are we exposing ourselves to these things? Well, the reason why is because we wanted to be able to ship these things from Kansas all the way to Miami so someone can eat some crackers or something, right? The problem with that is real food would spoil during these types of trips. So they had to put all these chemicals in so that it would not spoil. The only problem is it's not food anymore when they do that. And so it's a catch-22, folks. And unfortunately, I think that we have really run that gamut to its end. I think we're starting to see the data coming in. That the health data is horrific about what happens when you eat these things. So be careful. And as a result of this, they're literally having to. In order to maintain this, they're going to have to put robots on the road just to drive all these trucks around, just to keep it all working, because we've built a system that depends on this. It's ludicrous. It's crazy. And you say, no, come on, Peter. That can't be. Oh, really? Can't be, eh? The first driverless semis that starts running long hauls. That's right. Driverless semis. What a thought. What a thought. And as many errors as AI makes, they're putting them in charge of a vehicle. This vehicle size. Look at the driverless trucks are officially running their first regular long-haul routes, making round trips between Dallas and Houston. And on Thursday, autonomous trucking from Aurora announced it's launching commercial service in Texas under its first customers, Uber Freight and Hirschbach Motor Lines. It delivers time and temperature-sensitive freight. Time and temperature-sensitive freight. So what are they doing? They're testing the system to make sure that they can eliminate the humans from the system and continue crisscrossing the country with trucking. That's right. And what are they anticipating? That there might be a problem with personnel. So why do they need robots? Why do they need all this? Because they're about to tell you some things that you might not like. That's why. And so since they already know that many of you may not wish to go along with that program, they're anticipating a full collapse. That's the level of wholesale-ness. You don't make these kinds of preparations unless you're planning on something like that. And so, folks, you should as well. And I think that's why you're seeing consumer confidence starting to plummet, because there's too much information coming out, and anxiety is starting to really hit people. Okay, as the trade war is starting to impact Americans' confidence in the economy slumped for the 5th straight month to its lowest level since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic. So this is crazy information, right? So it's actually worse now than it was then. And why is that? Because of the decoupling. The decoupling is going to continue to be an economic difficulty. And I believe you're going to see major, major impacts on both sides. In fact, you see even China moving to cut U.S. farmer ties. So again, this is part of the warfare, nation against nation stuff we saw discussed in Matthew chapter 24. And so something that we knew was coming, but here is the way it's actually unfolding. So we're keeping an eye on it. China moves to cut U.S. pharma ties, a new shockwave for global healthcare stocks. And China is accelerating plans to cut its dependence on U.S. pharmaceutical supplies as trade tensions show no signs of easing. After Donald Trump returned to the White House in January, Beijing's National Medical Products Administration instructed state-owned drug makers to assess their exposure to U.S. raw materials, lab equipment, and regions. Directive also extend to top hospitals which heavily rely on advanced medical devices from companies like GE and all of this other nonsense. Frankly, I think we're all moving away from all of this anyway. They can do whatever they want with it. It's literally going to become garbage as the people that remain are moving more and more toward homeopathic and naturopathic remedies, that are harmonious with the human body and with nature are on the rise. Pharmaceuticals are on the dropping quickly. So you're going to find more and more effort the other way. You're going to see hospitals and clinics that are opening up that are for those that are looking for those services, that are wanting to decouple themselves from pharmaceutical use rather than re-entrench themselves further. So you're going to see two separate pathways. One has a future, the other does not. Speaking of a future, many people thought that cryptocurrency was going away many years ago. I heard a lot of people speculating that this was just a fad and it was useless. Well, not anymore, folks. Now you're seeing, here's a headline from the president's son saying, if banks don't watch what's coming, they'll be extinct in 10 years. Basically, letting them know that they have to get on board with what is happening in the cryptocurrency space. The modern financial system is broken. It's slow and it's expensive. Eric Trump told CNBC and UAE. The executive vice president of the Trump organization has made frequent visits to the desert sheikdom in recent years as it rapidly becomes a global hub for what? Cryptocurrency. So once they got involved, it's now not going anywhere. A vocal advocate of digital currencies, a younger Trump lauded the decentralized finance as a way to bypass the costs and lack of privacy of traditional banks. And he's absolutely right. People would be appalled at the absence of privacy in your transactions. If you only knew the way in which your business is being handled, you would be literally up in arms. I think you would be enraged. So I do believe that people are slowly figuring it out and would rather put these services on their desktop or in a place where they feel more comfortable in control of the way things work. So this is an interesting thing that we're seeing right now. And then you have things like this that are just, this doesn't exactly build our confidence in their alternative systems when, look at this. Major U.S. bank was hit by nationwide outages as users report issues with credit cards. And again, we've seen this. It's not the first time we've seen it, folks. Citibank, used by 200 million Americans. What? Yeah. 200 million Americans was hit by a nationwide outage. The bank's website showed an error message. We've encountered the issue and are working to fix the issue. I bet you are. I bet you're working real hard to fix that issue. I can tell you the issue. You're the issue. Right? That's the issue. They're the issue. The fact that we even let them scam you the way that they have is just unreal. But I digress. I'm grateful to see people are starting to wake up. You're starting to see other players get involved in the crypto space. So again, this isn't going anywhere, folks. Anybody thought it was? Isn't Sam Altman's eye scanning crypto project launches in the U.S. And of course, he's OpenAI chief, so he's one of the AI people, and of course, ChatGPT and so forth. And this project aims to scan the irises of every single person on Earth, exchange for cryptocurrency. So they're going to take this to another place. That's right. They're going to take that to another place. Who sees some odd things happening there? This is why we have to off-ramp at a certain point. There's a certain point at which we got to say, okay, and this is where we're done. Right? This is where we're done. And we're not going to play anymore because they're going to go goofy. But in the meantime, we've got to learn how to be wise as serpents and harmless as doves, folks, or you're going to be eating out of a can. Trump set to raise millions from crypto and meme coin this month. So they're not going anywhere with this crypto and AI innovators dinner. He's doing a gala at the end of May. So again, folks, I only say these things because I know there's other voices out there that'll tell you, oh, no, it's going to go away and this stuff is going to be, worthless tomorrow and all that. And that hasn't turned out at all to be correct. So instead, just like people that told you that the Yellow Pages were going to make a comeback and don't you dare go onto that Google nonsense and those website nonsense. Hang on, the Yellow Pages are making a comeback. Them and Ralph Nader. Nader for president. Things are heating up. Things are heating up. Don't worry, Nader's making a comeback. And then, of course, they're trying to get us all in this Neuralink nonsense, right? So now they're trying to get us to think that's okay. Neuralink, brain transplants. Yeah, that's what we need. We all need a brain transplant. Okay? So, there's only so far we're going to let them take us, but we're watching. We're keeping an eye on it. There are certain things that you can't escape from. So they know, here's what's happening. They know that they have a system they have to replace. They don't have a choice. It's broken. We all know it. We all know it's fake. We know it's fraudulent. And they got Chat GPT calling them out as fraud, literal fraud. How long do you think it's going to be before the general public starts to revolt? Not long. So they got no choice. They got to come up with a system. The problem is that they don't want to give you a free system because then they lose total control. So they got to come up with some way to hybrid you into a control grid. And it's not going well. You know why? You guys are praying. Your prayers are shaking everything up. You say, our prayers are shaking everything up, Peter? Yeah. My prayers shaking things up? Yeah. No way. Yeah, way. Watch this. Major U.S. city that's on volcano watch is rock. See, you guys are rocking things, man. Shaking things up, praying. Man, volcanoes are happening, man. Volcanoes, 5.0 magnitude earthquake. Look at that. It's you guys. You guys are an earthquake. 4.7 magnitude earthquake just struck just miles from the Alaskan city, already on alert for a possible volcanic eruption. We've been keeping an eye on some of these volcanic movements and very interesting things happening right now in that regard. So we hope to keep an eye on. Hopefully we can stay around to keep an eye on that. We're also seeing heat waves. And this was an incredible thing that we saw. Remember, we're looking at this area for war, right? And they got a different kind of war going on. Pakistan may hit 120 degrees this week, and it could be a global record. That is hot, and that is early in the year. Remarkable heat across South Asia may change global temperature records this week. Temperatures in Central and South Pakistan rose to 118. Whoa, that's hot. Degrees Fahrenheit, and it gets to about 100 here, guys, in the summer. Now, we're not in the Phoenix Valley here in the mountains, so we get about 15 degrees cooler than the Phoenix Metro. So whenever you see a Phoenix Metro temperature, we're probably about 15 degrees cooler here, but even we get into 95 to 100 degrees, right? And we know what 100 degrees feels like. 118 to 120. Wow, that is some heat right there. And we're also seeing a lot of earthquakes hitting and a lot of things that are happening to shake the earth. So again, remember, he said he would shake and shake again everything that can be shaken. And you guys are shaking it up out there by telling the truth and declaring the truth without compromise. You bunch of world shakers, you bunch of shake-a-muffins. Look at you with more than 70 earthquakes. How many? 70. They came back with joy. 70. How many? 70. How many? 70. Come on, somebody. Massive earthquakes as 300,000 Americans prepare for eruption. Dun, dun, dun. Approximately 73 earthquakes have struck a massive volcano in the last week that scientists warned could erupt. The Alaskan Volcanic Observatory shared on Friday that Mount Spur remains at elevated levels of unrest and explosive eruption is possible. So are we about to see a volcanic eruption in Alaska? Stay tuned, folks, because I think we may be just in fact about to see that. In fact, we continue to see earthquakes in some of the oddest, strangest places that you don't normally see this kind of activity, right? So here we had a swarm of earthquakes that were rocking Texas, with the largest being a 4 magnitude. You may not think much of this, but again, not an area that typically gets that. And Texas experienced multiple earthquakes within 3 hours on Monday. So U.S. Geological Survey recorded 3 tremors in the western part of the state, the largest measuring 3.6 in magnitude that hit about 35 miles south of White City in New Mexico. So again, some things happening under the ground. Do we know what it is? Not really. Do we understand? Not really. All we know is it's rumbling. It's probably you guys. I'm telling you. You think I'm being funny, but I'm serious. You guys are praying. You're asking the Most High to respond, and things are shaking everywhere. And by the way, did you hear this? We already knew that things were a little dicey with the whole airline stuff, but now they're coming straight out with these headlines. Well, this really concerns me because look where it is, guys. Yahoo News, okay? This is right in Yahoo, all right? And they're saying air traffic controller warns major airport unsafe for travel. Avoid Newark at all costs. So they're starting to get to the point where they're telling you which airports not to fly in and out of. An air traffic controller warned Friday that Newark Liberty International Airport is unsafe for travelers due to staff shortages, according to MSNBC correspondent Tom Costello. He said it's not safe. It's not a safe situation right now for the flying public. So again, some of the situations we're seeing, is it because of actual shortages, or is this a bit of a protest? We don't know. It may be mixed. And that's the thing we're seeing here, is that whenever you mess with the status quo, well, there's people that'll just be upset just because. All right. So we don't know if we're seeing some of that. We certainly saw a dramatic reduction in the personnel. These are highly paid people, by the way, these air traffic controllers. So them losing their jobs was a major disruption. And I think that's what's fueling a lot of these protests going on around the world, because we're starting to see where people were being paid. Yeah, all these protests going on around the world are places where your dollars used to be funding, and now they don't have any money, so they're upset, and they're going in the streets, and they're upset with everything. Hundreds of thousands of people in the U.S. and around the world rallied on Thursday and made a protest that united many in anger over President Trump's agenda. His agenda meaning we're not giving you any more money on aggressive tariffs, and they're stoking fears of global economic turmoil. No, I don't think they're protesting over tariffs. They're protesting that they're not getting certain funding that they were getting before. So these things are all part of what we're seeing coming up in these hours. And speaking of something that we're seeing now, more and more common. Now, before you get yourself your as we used to say back in the old days, before you get your panties in a bunch. Yeah. It's just a joke. Don't anybody get upset now. But seriously, before you get upset about this, I want to say something from a programmer's perspective. Now, what they're calling AI, what they're calling that, is maybe a ramp to something that is actually intuitive in some other way. But what you're actually seeing is just clever programming. I know I work with this programming all the time, and it is not sentient. No matter how well they can trick you into thinking it is, it isn't. And that's important, because if it does become, in other words, if they're able to take us over a line, then we have transitioned to another place. So, but right now, what they're calling artificial intelligence is actually language software. And so some of this, I think, is a bit overblown, is my point, and not very good language software, I must say. And those that work with me on my team know that I spend quite a bit of time laughing at and correcting much of the nonsense that is AI. So if they think they're going to run the world with it, we laugh literally every day. We laugh. If you think you're going to run the world with this stuff, you guys are in big trouble. So just understand that, okay, so that you don't get too freaked out, because I think they want you freaked out. I think they want you to think, oh, it's this, they put it too high, and it really doesn't deserve that kind of attention. It's really just fancy software. And so now they're saying the AI is running the classroom, and where this is problematic is the AI makes too many mistakes. So it needs people that actually know the truth to say that's not true. It just made that up, because it does that. It makes stuff up all the time. And so this is a real problem here, is AI is running the classroom at this Texas school, and students say, what? It's awesome. Of course they do. It's something new, right? And at the school, students spend 2 hours with AI tutors, skip homework, and still land on the top 2% nationwide. And I can tell you why that is. It's very simple. They did build these programs to be very sensitive to adjustment, something that is a big thing we should pay attention to. And the secondary thing is simply being present. After all, if you pay attention long enough, you pick up on anybody's positives or negatives, and you can start tailoring to them. So is this a potential future use? Perhaps, if it's in the hands of the remnant who are programming it. The key is the programming. So it's not the raw AI, the raw language model. Okay. If you ever notice, guys, they talk about raw language models, but then when you go looking for them, you always have to go through some portal or some interface, some kind of window, right? Some kind of chat interface. Am I right? Okay. Right. That chat interface is creating the rules, not the AI. The chat interface that you're typing into, the website that you're sitting at, the portal on your phone, the application that you downloaded, that's creating the rules. That's why some apps do things they shouldn't, naughty things, right? And other apps do pretty benign things. And so why is that? Because of their programming. The AI is just like raw feed to access to language models. What you do with it is what they're calling AI. And so just be aware of that so you're not overwhelmed with it. You're not sitting there all freaked out, because that's not a good place to be. And they certainly love to try to put us there if they can. So we don't like to give them that if we can avoid it. And there are a lot of things that are happening right now in Southern California. We've got something with sea lions that basically this was a thing that started to come up. There's no pictures, unfortunately, in this article. There was one when we got the article itself, but it was basically showing some of the marine life. And so one of the concerns, of course, is things that are coming up upon shore, right? So we saw this last week. We were talking about some of the fish wildlife that's coming from the depth of the ocean, and they're not really able to explain it. So is that tied to underwater volcanoes, underwater earthquakes? What do we got going on here? We saw a huge earthquake happen at the tip of South America, and that's a dangerous area. Is that indicating something awakening? Oh boy, time will tell. Time will tell. And our last story is very sad. It's again the reason why we need prayer, we need connection, and we need alliance. We need one another, and we need to protect and preserve, because there are many forces in the world that are evil and that do great harm. And this last story is one that is sad. Our hearts go out to the pastor's family, the New River pastor William Schuneman, who was found dead in bed, and his hands were pinned to the wall, sources said. So this was a horrible crime that was committed against a pastor. The death of beloved Pastor William Schuneman of New River Bible Chapel in Arizona has been ruled a homicide, and sources reveal disturbing details about what police found when his body was discovered inside his home on Monday. In the news release provided to the Christian Post on Wednesday, the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office said officers found 76-year-old Schuneman dead at his home after they responded to a call at 7:31. The investigators indicated that they observed evidence of foul play at the scene, but not elaborate. Multiple sources have since told Fox 10 in Phoenix that Schuneman suffered significant injuries. He was reportedly found on his bed with his arms spread out and his hands pinned to a wall. And Maricopa County Sheriffs did not immediately respond when asked by CP about details allegedly observed at the crime scene. So, again, our hearts go out not only to the family of this pastor, but also the congregation and those that are mourning. The scripture tells us very clearly to mourn with those who mourn. And this is a very sad and tragic end for this pastor. And again, indicative of the days that we live in. And so all the more we need to be sober and vigilant. We need to be a protecting people, a people who protect and preserve our brethren, if you will. I'm very grateful for those that live and abide together in unity, where Allah Hayam has commanded the barakah. Let me encourage all of you to be sober and vigilant in this hour. I pray you all have at least a few people. It really should be at least 5, really, but at least a few that you could call in a time of difficulty. And if you don't have that network, if you don't have that kind of fellowship, let me encourage you to start connecting with those that could be there in case you have need. This is a very dangerous world we're in. Times are perilous, and it's just not wise to expect that everything will be status quo. And so let's be a sensitive people out there, folks. Our love for you continues to grow by the day. We love you all, but we also know that this is a dangerous time. So we want you to be careful. We want you to be wise as you go about your daily lives. And those that are thinking that you can just, again, as I've said, if you think you can just ride it out in the suburbs, well, this is a pastor. And that evil walked right in his door. So be aware that this is, in fact, a difficult time. Well, that's it for tonight. I pray this broadcast has been a berakah to you. It's certainly an enjoyment, something I enjoy doing each and every week. That's a challenge. You got to get all these stories ready, get everything going on a day I already have another broadcast. But I do it because I know that it's something that people appreciate, and I appreciate it because then I only have to do this once a week, and I don't have to think about those news stories for another week. I don't have to be overwhelmed. I can be informed without being overwhelmed. Thanks again for joining us.